weekly.
Yeah.
So if the last time they took the reading,
You were at 10, and then they come back, you're at 1. Like,
you get it.
what is happening
You're in
here?
trouble.
What is happening?
So, and you know what happens in Nigeria. So this
Pay your
whole-
NEPA bill, no pay your NEPA bill, I cut your line, and all these
yeah.
things.
So you have to
have the
check
backing.
that this guy is a stronger and not some guys that tomorrow he will die.
Hey guys, what's going on? Thank you so much for staying tuned. So Danny and I have been talking so far. We started talking about the PTDF scholarship and then studying renewable energy in Germany. It's actually so interesting to see that where he studied, University of Freiburg, which is one of the locations in Germany where you have to pay tuition to study, that people from countries like Nigeria, that you get a waiver, a tuition waiver. You pay maybe the first tuition, but then going further, you can apply for a waiver. So if you know about some of these states in Germany where they say you have to pay tuition, it's okay. You could make that upfront investment, but know that there's a chance for you to get that money back and that you don't actually have to continue to pay tuition, right, Danny?
Yeah, that I can only say for University of Freiburg.
But you know what I can actually say on that is I would believe or I would imagine this is also the case for other locations in Germany, because this is also like a political debate. You know, there are people who are for free tuition and those who are against it. And I think most states are trying to come to a balance that, okay, but how about people that cannot afford it? And we need more manpower, we need more labor forces in Germany. So for like developing countries, people who cannot afford it, I think the state should do a waiver. So if someone was coming from maybe like the US, for example, I think they would not maybe fall under that category.
No, it's you have to be from a developing country
Exactly.
to fall under that category. And
Yeah.
I actually don't know what the numbers are saying for those states, because when you implement this tuition fee, you don't see the number of enrollments going down. Then there is actually no convincing argument to say if we put tuition, less people come to our university.
Yeah.
So maybe Baden-Württemberg is still benefiting from the fact that the whole of Germany tuition is still free. So and people will still say, okay, I can still go to Baden-Württemberg to study after work, or I work elsewhere, or you don't even know. You apply to a school there, then they say you have to pay. It's 1,500 euros.
That's-
If you work hard, you can actually even finance that from.
Yeah, of course. I mean, compared to other locations in Germany.
I mean, you know, when we're talking about the opportunities for students, it's not just after graduation, because when you work, when you're studying, you need to work to finance your studies as well.
Yeah.
So, and when you're in states like these, then there are these opportunities to get student work.
So how did it go? You did your internship there, and then the company retained you, and then you worked with them for like a year. What was your role in this company?
So I was a solar PV electrical engineer. So I work 60% on the field and 40% in the office.
Okay.
So working on the field here means in the solar PV installation process, there is a DC part, which is the part that is involved with installing the PV module on the roof, doing the interconnection of the module from the roof, and then bringing the cable into the house where it is connected to inverter.
Okay.
Now, you will already know that inverter is the one that converts DC power to AC power.
Yeah.
So I was in the AC team. So our job now is to, after the installation is done on the roof, talk by the DC team, and the cable comes to, in Germany, it's mostly in the basement.
Okay.
That's where we put the inverter and the energy storage system. So they bring the cable there. Then for us, it's Germany. There are lots of codes and standards to be adhered to when you're building PV modules. So which means we have to do a lot of work in your switchboard.
Okay.
We update it so that it's in compliance to the codes guiding solar PV installation at home.
Okay.
So yeah, that takes 2 to 3 days. So we do all the upgrades, put all the protection systems in the house, including earthing, and then we put our inverter and battery there. And then after that is done, we have to make preparation for where they bring a meter, because there is a kind of metering that is required, where you get both positive and negative metering. Okay. So the power that comes into your house from the grid, it's metered on the positive side, while the one that goes from your house into the grid, because it's a grid-tied solar PV system here that is built here in Germany, which means you can actually sell your power to the grid.
Oh, so I see. You can supply to the grid.
Yes, so the excess power you generate in your house, you sell it to the grid. So if you don't replace the old meter that is there, the analog meter that is there, what will basically happen is that on a warm day when you're on a sunny day when you're producing electricity, instead of your meter to be reading like the energy you're consuming, because you're feeding back into the grid, it will start going backward.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can imagine your meter
Reading backwards.
reading backward. The grid operator doesn't like it because
Yeah.
they charge different tariff from what you consume and what you sell. Like for instance, what you sell to them, they buy it for like 5 cents per kilowatt. But what you buy from them, you buy it for like 32 cents per kilowatt. So because of that, if you just put it directly and it start reading backward, so instead of
So
them
what does
paying-
it mean it's reading backward? You're buying from them.
No, you're cleaning your consumption.
You're cleaning your consumption.
So it's when you take your electricity from the grid and it goes through the meter, the meter calculate the powers that goes through it through your consumption. But now when you have a solar plant installed, instead of you pulling power from the grid, now you are putting power back into the grid. So the same meter that used to, and the net of it, if what you're consuming is less than what you're producing, the excess is going back into the grid.
Yeah.
So when it is going back, instead of meter to read it this way, it will start going backward.
Yeah.
Now,
I see.
you may say that is fine. It's not fine because what you pay the grid for what you take from them is different from what they pay you when you sell to them. As I said, you pay around 5 cents per kilowatt.
You sell to them.
When you sell to them, but when you take from them, you pay around, depending on the retailer you're using in Germany, you could pay from, okay, since this crisis happened, I've not really seen where the tariff is now. But let's say you could pay from between 28 to 38 cents per kilowatt.
Yeah, I mean, like us for now, we have that 2-meter reading system. So there's the day tariff and the night tariff. Night we pay 24 cents per kilowatt stunde, and then day we pay around 14, 15.
Yeah, that's another special kind of meter again in Germany that has this high and low tariff. The low tariff meter actually is not connected to your house, it's only connected to a heat pump. Like if you have a heater at home.
I see, yeah.
The power you consume in your house still goes
regardless.
Regardless of whether it's day or night. If you go and connect anything in your house to the one coming out of the low tariff meter, you're doing something fishy which shouldn't be done. So for that kind of meter, that is how it works. But for the meter for PV installation in the house, it's a digital meter that has like a code 1.8 and 2.8. 2.8 is the one that rates what you're putting back to the grid, and 1.8 rates what you're taking from the grid. And
really
at the end of the year, there's a settlement.
The Abrechnung.
So if you consume, like if they do the calculation and what you're supposed to pay the grid operator is less than what they are supposed to pay you, then you receive money from them.
Solid.
Yeah, but if that were not to be the case, then you guys do a kind of balancing, and whosoever is owing the nets, whosoever is owing who pays the amount. But if you don't use this bi-directional meter, in the end, you will be sure that it's the grid operator that will pay you, which will make you to run into problem because,
of course,
they always take the reading of the meter periodically.
Yeah.
So if the last time they took the reading,
you were at 10, and then they come back, you're at 1, like.
You get it.
What is happening here?
Trouble.
What is happening? I think this is quite a solid experience, that you can actually generate electricity from your house, you use, if you have excess, you sell to the grid, which is then supplied to other people, But can anyone have this solar panel system at home? Like, could I have it, install it here, for example?
Yeah, anyone can have it, but you have to be the owner of the house, of course, because when you do this installation, it lasts for, let's say, PV have a lifetime of at least 25 years.
Okay.
So if you're renting a house, it depends on the kind of agreement you reach with your landlord. But if the house belongs to you, anyone can do that. Especially, there are lots of regulations around PV installation in Germany. But if you're doing this normal residential rooftop installation that is less than 10 kilowatts peak, then you can basically do that without any question. But when you're going above 30 kilowatt peak, then you have to go to the grid operator because there is a transformer in your area. Okay. And this transformer should have the capacity to take what you're feeding into it.
Yeah.
Now, according to the law, they cannot tell you no. What they can tell you is that, hey, please be a little bit patient. In the next 5 years, we will upgrade the transformer. When we do that upgrade, you can come in. But they will not tell you, no, we will not do it.
Yeah.
And if you have the capacity to do the upgrade and say, hey, no, I will do it, then they'll like, go.
Okay. From your experience, is it a common practice? Because this is kind of sounding like a business opportunity. From your experience, is it a common practice that people get into this whole stuff? Install the PV plant in their house, generate the stuff, sell to the grid, and then that they don't have to pay a lot with the whole electricity bill. Do you think it's a common practice?
So actually, that is why I have a job. I mean, we're building
Okay.
PV plant to sell the electricity.
Yeah,
But
true.
it depends on the scale. If you want to use your rooftop, what your rooftop will take, let's say, maximum 30 kilowatt peak.
Because we are living at the rooftop, you know. So I'm looking at the window here and stuff like.
So if your rooftop could only take like 30 kilowatt peak, it's not economical.
What does it mean by rooftop? So the space of my rooftop.
Yes, because it's limited. And when you build it at this level, according to the regulation, you have to sell it directly to the grid operator, like your local grid operator.
Okay.
And you really don't get so much. But if it's something you want to do commercially and you build like 10 megawatts peak, that's where the money comes in. Then in that case, you will either do like a PPA, it's power purchasing agreements, which is basically me coming to you and like say, hey, Mike, I have power here. I can supply you electricity for the next 25 years. You can go home and sleep. You don't have to worry about it. Give me, let's say, 75 euros per megawatt, which is like 7 cents per kilowatt. So give me 7 cents per kilowatt, and for the next 25 years,
you lock that deal with them.
You lock that deal with them. And the advantage you get is that you will not be exposed to the fluctuation in energy prices in the market. Regardless of what happened, it is my duty to provide you power as promised in the contract. And if I default, I have to pay like very, very serious penalty for it. And you can be sure that you will always get your power. And if anything happens, I am the one to take that risk of ensuring that you get your power, except I bankrupt. So which means before you sign that contract with me, you have to check that, this guy is a strong guy and not some guys that tomorrow he will die.
But I mean, why are we not doing this in Nigeria? There's a lot of sunlight all year round. It doesn't cost so much to get a piece of land, have the whole rooftop. Why are we not doing this in Nigeria? Because I think the power in Nigeria is so epileptic. They could benefit a lot from this.
So now you're getting down to the real question, which is like asking why there is power problem in Nigeria. It may come to you as a cliche, but it is what it is. And if you don't solve it, the problem will not get solved. We are not running a socialist system in Nigeria. It's capitalism. And for anyone investing their resources into any business, the goal is to make more money. So the market really have to be liquid, which means you put your money, you're sure that you're getting back your money. But right now, the electricity tariff in Nigeria is not profitable. Nobody will do a business in a country like that. So
I see.
Yeah.
So it's so low, it's not profitable.
Yeah, if we have like a cost reflective tariff, like you're paying what you're getting, then you will be sure that the power problem in Nigeria will be fixed in the next 1 to 2 years. That Nigerian government will not even have to spend a dime. There are investors, there are trust funds, there are pension funds that have money and are looking for low-risk investments to make. So they have to look at your market and see...
So what's the risk here? The people cannot pay the price.
The people can. We start from the exchange rate. That's one thing, because if you're going to take a loan to build a power plant in Nigeria, the loan is likely going to be dominated in dollar. You could say, okay, I hedge it, but that's one part of the deal. Then when you build a plant, there are also local risks that could come from anything can happen to your plant. The government can change, and someone wakes up overnight and say, okay, yeah, I have a PPA with you. Then the guy come next time and say, because he wants to win an election, that I give people free power, or I even subsidize electricity.
And you have to oblige.
You have a bank, like, because nobody takes money out of their pocket to build this project. So you have a bank financing this project, and the bank is relying on the revenue you get from selling your power. Where people don't have confidence in the market that things are locked down and things will not change overnight. Not that things don't change, cannot change. Even when things change, then someone should be paid.
Something, you know?
Yeah,
it should be a good compensation.
Yeah, so if I build a power plant tomorrow and the government say, okay, we want to subsidize power, you will not just say, yeah, you can go and take care of yourself, because there was a contract, like I built my plant based on the existing regulation. Based on, and this contract was based on that. So if you are coming to change the regulation, you just don't change it overnight. So you could already tell me that in the next 2 years, this is what is going to happen. And at that time, if I still have a contract with, as I said earlier, with you that is supposed to last for 25 years. Everything that is covered in that outer year will be compensated. Or there should be a way that we will discuss and things will not just go bad.
Just come
So
to a reasonable agreement.
so it's that level of confidence that people need in the market to build power plants. And when you don't do that, then it will be governments calling someone to come and build plant for them. Here, the government does not own any power plants. The government does not operate the grid. Everything runs by itself because, people pay what they get, and governments give them the assurance that as you're making your investment, we're protecting you.
But how about, I mean, the way you put it, it's more on the large scale. But how about you start small? I want to understand what are the risks and also the influence of the government. Let's say my small village, just my community. I want to start a power plant that will just give constant electricity supply to the people. Is this within my control? Can I do this? Let me start from my house. I have a big house back home. I want to have this solar power installation to power my house. This is doable, right?
Yes.
And then I want to extend it to my neighbors.
I'm not so familiar regulatory-wise as to renewable energy in Nigeria as to what amount you can just sell to your neighbor without anyone questioning you. But I think in Nigeria, let me not give a number, but there is a certain amount of power you produce that you're mandated to put it into the national grid. So if you're mandated to do that, you have to go through the National Electricity Regulatory Commission because you need a permit to build this plant.
I thought that's sold already to PHCN now.
No. It's a government agency. I mean, you cannot privatize a regulator.
I thought PHCN took everything.
No, like it's National Electricity Regulatory.
Okay.
So it's a regulatory agency.
But NEPA does not exist anymore.
No, it doesn't exist. So we have the NEPA was basically unbundled and privatized.
Okay.
So now it's broken into three parts. There is the generation company, they call them Genco.
Okay.
So Genco will now, like what we are talking about now, that I build a solar plant. So I am a Genco because I'm producing.
Okay.
Then there is a TCN, which is Transmission Company of Nigeria. I don't know if that has changed, but as far as I know, it belongs to the government.
Okay.
So that part was not privatized. Then there is a distribution company, DISCO they call them. That's you're familiar with. So you see on your bill, they write Abuja Distribution Company, Enugu Distribution Company.
And this is managed by PHCN?
No, there's no PHCN.
But there was a time in Nigeria there was PHCN.
Yes, when
Power Holding Company of Nigeria.
In the days of PHCN, let me give you a typical example of how the power distribution works. Is that there is like a hydro plant in Kinchi Dam. You produce power.
Okay.
Now Nigeria have one single grid system. It's a national grid, which means you have to. Imagine there is a cable running everywhere in Nigeria.
Yeah.
So when you generate, you have to put it into that grid. Then you send it to, and it's a high voltage grid. Voltage around 110 kV, 33 kV. 110 is already high voltage grid, or 33, which is medium voltage grid. So you send it to the location. So if you're traveling in Nigeria, you see those things that looks like masts that has a lot of cable on them.
Yeah.
So that is
those are the
could be either high voltage or medium voltage.
Okay.
So then it goes to the city where they want to distribute the power. There is a substation there. And what the substation does is to take down the voltage from whichever level it is to low voltage level, which is what they send to our home. So now when it's coming down in that city, who takes care of it at that point is DISCO.
I see, the distributor.
Yeah, the distributor. So they would bring it down to, if you're using it's 380 or 220 as the case in Nigeria. I think the life is on 420. In Germany, it's 380. So which is like what we have here right now. So this one here is on 220 volts. Okay. Yeah. So then this is what they send to your home. So in the past, PHCN does everything.
I see.
So they generate, they transmit, they distribute.
Solid.
So, and in the wisdom of the federal government of Nigeria, they decided to unbundle the sector. You may have heard this language, like unbundling the sector.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the thing. So then there was a Genco. So they just generate. They don't care about what happened. No, they care because they want to get. The only thing they care about is like we have to get our money back, so that we can keep buying gas and produce. Then there's a TCN. Now, what I'm saying could be outdated. Okay. What the federal government did with TCN is that if they privatized TCN, Transmission Company of Nigeria, then they will take power to markets with favorable conditions. So which means if people will buy power more in Abuja, then there will be no more blackouts in Abuja. They will always sell it to Abuja.
Yeah.
So in order to avoid that, it stays with the government so that they can
distribute it fairly.
Yeah. Then when it gets to the city, Disco takes it. So now Disco is the off-taker of this power. Disco have to pay the Gencos to keep producing.
Of course.
But then who pays Disco?
The people.
So, and you know what happens in Nigeria. So
Disco... Pay your NEPA bill, pay your NEPA bill, I cut your line. And all this thing.
So since if Disco doesn't get enough money to pay the guy generating it, the guy generating it will not have enough money to buy gas to power their plant. The guys running the power plant will have to buy gas, and someone will just wake up and think, oh, we produce this gas in Nigeria. No, you will produce the gas in Nigeria, but the guy producing the gas wants to make the best return out of his product.
Yeah.
So the guy who pays him more is the guy he sells it to. So which means if there is a guy in Ghana who pays him more, he sells it to the guy. So if you are not paying a cost-reflective tariff to give this guy enough money to buy the fuel and pay the marginal cost and the other cost that he needs to produce, then why should the guy selling him gas, like where will he get the money to buy the gas from you? Because the guy selling the gas actually wants the real price. And all the time, Genco will complain that they don't have money. Federal government will give them money. When they complain, federal government gives them money, but that can never be enough. So for it to be competitive, the end user have to pay the real price. Like everyone actually have to be held responsible. The end user have to pay the real price. Then when they pay, and the real price will be high because we are actually exposed to the international markets. Because the guy selling the gas can also sell his gas to anywhere. Where he makes the most money is where he sells.
That's really complex, you know. But theoretically, what do you think Nigeria can learn from Germany, from the power sector? What can we learn, you know, as a way to take off? There's no light. It just drives me crazy. Imagine how productive the guys will be if they just had power. Productive guys would be if they had power. But I think that's a topic for another day. So, but as it is now with the current situation, what do you think?
What I will say is this, and it's a common problem in Nigeria, is that we as a country cannot grow at the same pace.
Obviously.
If we let the guy who wants to run, if the guy gets any reward, it will benefit the other guys within the system. So if what we call the national grid now, if everybody in Nigeria cannot pay a cost-reflective tariff, and we kind of, you recall what I said about CCN having to send power everywhere, and we now say, okay, let's, like, Buhari already did that before he left when they say states could generate power, but there are still questions to be answered on how that will be implemented. But if, for instance, Lagos can do it on their own and generate power, and they have 24 hours power supply, it becomes a model for the rest of Nigeria to copy from. But if you say, no, Lagos cannot grow, we all have to grow at the same time, then who are we going to copy? Like, we need to copy something that has been done and it's working locally. If it's Abuja, this is done. If it's Aba,
you're talking about localizing the electricity generation and distribution.
Yes, so how this could work is that you could have a grid built in Abia State, for instance, and then you say people could generate power and then sell their power to the grid. Like, which means you can even have your own 10 kVA generator at home and still sell power to that grid, but it will not be profitable. That I can tell you. If you are not doing it big, it will not be profitable. But if you have a barber salon and you need a generator, then you produce and you can put the rest into the grid. The economics needs to be seen anyway. But if it's profitable for you, then you can run it that way. And when people do it and people pool electricity together, because basically that is what should happen. Like you have this electricity aggregated, but you need a modern grid, not the grid we have now. That is why I said, let's make this separation that if it's Abia that is ready to do it and they are doing it, and it supports their industrialization, because there is a lot going on in Aba. If they could have electricity all the time and they are generating, then you could see the guys from Kano now saying, oh, what is happening in Abia State? How are they doing it? How can we learn from them? Then we could transfer this local skill to them. And mind you, if you're doing it at this smaller scale, you are using local engineers. And when you're taking those same engineers to work in Kano, you pay less than going to meet the big guys that will charge you everything in dollar or euro. It's a complicated thing. It's not something you just sit here and talk about and then
we'll talk about this again. So guys, I'd like to thank you so very much for staying tuned until this time. I'd like to thank Daniel Adekole so very much for the information. Any final words for the people, Danny, so we can just round up the session?
Okay, so thanks for for staying with us till the end, and I hope you learn one or two things. So we can keep this engaging. You have questions, drop it in the comment section, and yeah, I'll do my best to also answer it.
That's the spirit.
Yeah.
Thank you so very much, guys, and have a good one.